Ayan, tagal lang record. Matagal na siyang mag-record, guys. Ganito talaga, basta tatanggalin na. Ganyan din sa relasyon. Kapag ayaw na sa'yo, nanlalamig na. Di joke lang, guys. Baka makarelate yung iba dyan. Yan. Okay. So, notes receivable, part 2. We are to discuss the non-interest bearing notes receivable. So, for our focus points or objectives for this discussion, we'll discuss the basic concepts for non-interest bearing notes receivable, incorporate the present value concept, then the amortization schedules. In fact, I have already introduced to you amortization schedules yesterday, but we'll discuss a little different format. The summary journal entries and, of course, sample problems. So let us start with the basic concepts. Yun nga pala, guys, before I forgot, if you can notice, yung nasa picture, tingnan nyo yung guy, meron na siyang hawak na papel. Promissory note yan, guys. Wala lang, patalastas lang yan. Okay, basic concepts. So notes receivable is considered as non-interest bearing if it does not bear interest separate from the face amount of or unpaid balance of the promissory note. So in contrast with our discussion yesterday with interest bearing, when we compute for the interest in relation to interest bearing notes receivable, we multiply a specific stated rate with the unpaid balance or principal amount or the face amount of the promissory note. Meaning, the interest is really separate and not yet embedded or part of the face amount appearing in that promissory note. While under non-interest bearing, we do not compute interest in the same way. We deal with interest in a different way. So later I will introduce to you the process, but the application is no separate interest is computed using a stated rate based on the face amount of the promissory note. Now, additionally, notes receivable are considered non-interest bearing when no stated interest rate is provided on the face of the promissory note. Just like what I have presented yesterday, the sample promissory note is considered interest bearing because of the presence of the stated rate, which is, if you can recall, 10%. Yung 10% na nandun na stated, we can say that the promissory note is interest bearing. But if no interest rate is provided in the face of the promissory note, we assume that it is non-interest bearing. Now, parties may agree to apply interest on such promissory note in equal perspective with the market interest. So, kaya meron tayong application ng tinatawag na yield rates or effective interest rates. Or minsan sa mga books, nandun yung term is market interest rate. Okay? So here is an example of a promissory note na non-interest bearing. If you can notice on that paragraph, unlike with the promissory note that I have presented yesterday, no interest has been provided there. Okay? No interest. Only a statement, promise to pay. Then we have the face amount. We have the mode of payment, which is lump sum payment, and the maturity date, which is on the 31st of December 2024. Yan. So the same thing, we still have the important features, the amount, the place, the date, the signature, the address, and the notary public. Ayan. So yan na yan ang example. No interest rate provided in the problem. In the paragraph stating the promise in the promissory note. However, the however is you should not confuse yourselves for non-interest bearing notes receivable to not involve computation of interest at all, because the only difference of interest bearing and non-interest bearing is on the computation of interest. Non-interest bearing notes receivable still involves interest, but the interest are embedded on the face amount of the promissory note. If we are going to go back with the example of the promissory note, assuming the promissory note is interest bearing, the amount of 1 million does not include interest yet. That's why when we compute for the interest, we base the interest on the face amount by multiplying a stated rate. So on that aspect pa lang, magkaiba na si promissory note na interest bearing at saka non-interest bearing. So take note, kapag interest bearing, the 1 million does not include yet the interest, meaning the face amount is equivalent only to the principal amount of such promissory note. But if we're going to move to the perspective of non-interest bearing, for non-interest bearing, that amount of 1 million already includes the interest. That's the reason why, yung sabi dito, the interest is already embedded on the amount appearing on the promissory note. So if you can recall what we have discussed yesterday about maturity value, we can say that for interest bearing, yung maturity value is principal plus interest. Now the question, how do we compute the maturity value for non-interest bearing? So we'll reserve that question. Ito na pala. So for the computation of the maturity value, if it is interest bearing, we refer it as the principal amount plus the total interest. But for non-interest bearing notes receivable, since the interest is already embedded on the amount appearing on the face of the promissory note, meaning if we're going to go back with the example promissory note, the 1 million, okay, the 1 million already includes both the principal and the interest. Okay? With that regards, we can say, parang mali ata. Okay, with that, we can say that the face amount is already the maturity value of the non-interest bearing promissory note. Okay? Are you following? Kindly raise hand. Okay. So to compute the formula to compute for our interest on the promissory note for non-interest bearing is simply to compare the or find the difference of the face amount and the present value of the promissory note. So I have already made an slight introduction of present value computation yesterday, but I'll apply it again in this discussion. So the difference is interest on promissory note, and that interest is referred to as unearned interest. If the interest in relation to interest-bearing promissory note is referred to as accrued interest, if you can still remember, it was just yesterday, accrued interest for interest-bearing. For non-interest-bearing, it is unearned interest. Now, you might ask, sir, they are just the same interest. Okay, somehow, or in one way or another, they are just the same interest credited as interest income. But why is it that the naming is different? Aside from the difference of the promissory notes being interest-bearing and non-interest-bearing, the reason for the naming is that since the interest-bearing promissory note, the face amount or the principal does not include yet the interest, our way of acquiring the right over that interest or earning the interest income is through the accrual method. Okay? Accrual method. So we debit, not we debit. We make adjustments. Okay, we make adjustments, we accrue by preparing entry at the year end. So yun, you debit interest receivable or accrued interest, then credit interest income. Meaning, we are to receive the interest. Okay? We have the right to receive the interest. Meaning the interest is not yet on our hands, not yet on our records. We don't have the records yet for the interest income. But for non-interest bearing notes receivable, it is as if we receive in advance the interest. That's why, per definition earlier, the interest of the non-interest bearing notes receivable is embedded on the promissory notes face amount. Okay? So unearned interest, meaning yung face amount kasama na yung principal at kasama na yung interest. Although we do not know how much is the specific amount for the interest and how much is for the principal. Okay? But the gist is the entire face amount is both principal and interest already. And the interest is referred to unearned interest. We receive yet the interest, but it is considered unearned. Recall the concept for interest. Interest is recognized on a periodic basis. So if we receive interest in advance, that would mean it's a one-time recognition if we're going to follow that. But since interest is recognized on a periodic basis, we have to recognize interest income through the unearned interest by amortizing such unearned interest. So, i-apply pa rin natin, guys, yung amortization schedule. And raise hand if you can still catch up. Okay. Now we proceed with present value concepts. How to compute the present value of non-interest bearing notes receivable. Computation of the present value of non-interest bearing notes receivable is quite different with interest bearing. Yesterday, we have discussed with interest bearing with unrealistic interest. Okay? Yesterday, we have compute in present value of the principal plus the present value of the interest. But here, in non-interest bearing, what is done is to compute the present value by multiplying a present value factor with the entire face amount of the promissory note. So how do you compute the present value? It depends on the payment or settlement of the note. So we also have here the concept of lump sum basis and installment basis. Both interest-bearing and non-interest-bearing notes receivable may be settled on a lump sum or installment basis. Now, on an installment basis, we have it always at one-time payment. And for installment basis, we have it on a periodic payment. For lump sum basis, it is simply the face amount, the entire face amount, multiplied by a present value factor. Now, the result should be the present value of the notes. Then, the present value factor that we're going to use is referred to the present value of 1. If you can recall with our example yesterday with lump sum basis under unrealistic interest, we use present value of 1 for lump sum basis by multiplying cash flows with specific specific present value factors for each period. The same concept, magkakaiba nga lang yung parang format on how we compute. So later i-apply natin yan sa problem solving, don't worry. So when do we use present value of 1? we use present value of 1 when the settlement of the note is on a specific year. Okay? End of a specific year or lump sum on a specific year. So for example, if it's say at the end of 5 years or at the end of 4 years or at the end of 3 years. Yan. And if we're going to go back here, present value of 1 is referred to as the present value of a rate for a single period. So since lump sum basis is referring to settlement on a specific period, then it is proper to use the present value of a rate for a single period. So that is present value of 1. Okay? For installment basis, it is the annual installment collections multiplied by the present value factor. The present value factor is referred to the present value of a rate for several periods. So we are already accumulating the present value factors for several periods. It could either be ordinary annuity or annuity due. Ordinary annuity is referred sometimes as in arrears of 1. Both ordinary annuity or in arrears means parang annual. Okay, complete annual. Then annuity due or in advance of 1. Annuity due or in advance of 1, same pa rin, complete annual, yun nga lang si in advance of 1, merong parang advancement of installment. Guys, magkaiba si down payment sa advance installment. Transaction may or may not involve down payment, but sometimes a transaction may involve advance payment. Down payment could be an advance payment, but what we are referring to for present value computation is the advance payment related to installment balance. Down payment kasi does not require present value, but yung installment balance, yun yung magre-require ng present value. So how do we differentiate ordinary annuity with annuity due? Ordinary annuity, we use present value of ordinary annuity when the first installment payment will be made at a later date from the transaction date. So which means if our transaction date is on January 1 of 2021, that would mean that the first payment date, for example, is on December 31, 2021. So there is a substantial period of time before we make our first payment. Kaya nga later. First payment date is at a later date from the transaction date. While the present value of annuity due, the first installment payment will be made at the transaction date, the moment of transaction. So the transaction date, example, January 1, 2021, should also mean the first payment date. Okay? Meaning, there is no substantial period of time where, within which we can compute interest. Kasi just a day or two difference, mahirap naman, 2 days interest lang or 1 day interest. Usually interest is on an annual basis. Okay pa yung monthly kasi substantial period of time naman yan. Quarterly, the same. Semi-annual, lalo na. How much more yung annual? Okay? Kindly raise hand if able to catch up with the difference of the two. Okay. So now that we know that actually yung present value na yon, tatlo lang yung binigay ko. I presented or introduced 3 present value factors. So we have present value of 1, present value of ordinary annuity, and annuity due. There is another one. Present value of perpetuity. But I will not discuss it because you're going to learn it if you proceed with financial management topic. Present value is present value is part of the concept time value of money. Now, to elaborate more of present value before I proceed with amortization, how does present value work? Okay. Balikan kanina yung non-interest bearing na promissory note, yung 1 million yung amount. 'Di ba? Kapag interest bearing na non-interest bearing promissory note, it involves present value. Kumbaga, yung concept ng present value, how much is the value of this 1 million today if I expect to settle this in the future? The promissory note earlier indicates that we're going to pay the exact amount of 1 million at December 31st of 2024. Now, since it is far from today, then how much is that 1 million today? So, doon papasok si 1 million. Okay? Parang from future, magbabacktrack ka up to today kung magkano yung value niya today. Magkaiba naman yung concept kung i-apply yan sa interest bearing. Kasi si interest bearing is more of future value. Future value is also part of time value of money. For interest bearing is that, di ba sa interest bearing, we compute and accrue interest in addition for the value of the promissory note. So let us assume again 1 million. So if I have 1 million today, because I will receive or I will invest 1 million today, how much will be the 1 million, the value of my 1 million at maturity date? Sabihin natin sa December 31, 2024. Magkano yung maging value ng 1 million ko at the end of 2024? It's like we are seeing through the future. I have an amount today, what will be the amount in the future? Yung future value concept. Yung present value naman, meron kang amount na nakikita sa future, so magkano yung amount today? So therefore, for future value, present yung amount today, pero question mark yung amount sa future. For present value, present yung amount in the future, pero we don't know the amount today. Nagigets ako, guys? Kindly raise hand na lang. Ayan. Para mas madaling alalahanin the difference ng future value at present value, ganito na lang. Gumawa ka na lang ng simple question. Future value, how much is the value of my investment in the future? Present value, how much is the value of my investment today? Or how much will I invest today? Ganun na lang. Okay? So proceed tayo with amortization schedules. For amortization schedules, yung format that we're going to use for a lump sum basis, okay, almost the same with what I have presented yesterday. The only difference is instead of discount on notes receivable, what I present here is unearned interest. Okay, unearned interest. The next for installment basis. For installment basis, we have a column for annual installment. We have column for we also have column for principal repayments. Yung lacking lang na column is on interest receivable. because interest receivable is the column for the amount of accrued interest. Again, we don't have accrued interest for non-interest bearing. Accrued interest is only present for interest bearing. So what is present with non-interest bearing is unearned interest. That's why merong tinanggal na column for interest receivable. But hindi mawawala yung interest income. Okay? Hindi mawawala yung interest income. So summary journal entries. For lump sum basis, to record the receipt of the note, debit notes receivable, credit sales revenue if referring to dealings with customers. Then properties if referring to sale of incidental, sale of properties referring to incidental activities. Kapag yung pagbenta natin ng properties other than dealings with customers, bale parang incidental activity siya. Sales revenue kapag sale of goods or services. Then other accounts kapag, like for example, we are lending money. Then debit to loss on sale or credit to gain on sale if relating to incidental activities, if there is any loss or gain. Then the additional entry is to credit unearned interest income. Okay, unearned interest income. Then to record the periodic amortization of unearned interest, we debit unearned interest and credit interest income. Then to record settlement of the note, we debit cash and credit notes receivable. Then the amount that we're going to post is the entire amount of the face value. For installment basis, that is under ordinary annuity, the same entry to record the receipt. Then to record the periodic amortization of interest, we still debit unearned interest income and credit interest income. Then to record the receipt of installment payments, the same journal entry, debit to cash and credit to notes receivable. The only difference is that what we're going to post is the installment collection. The amount of installment collection, not the entire amount of the promissory note. Kasi hindi siya lump sum basis. Installment siya. Then, for annuity due, installment basis under annuity due, in addition to the receipt of the promissory note, we're going to debit cash and credit notes receivable for the advance payment. Okay, for the advance payment. Then afterwards, we proceed with the recording of subsequent installment payments, debit to cash and credit to notes receivable. Then simultaneous recording of amortization of unearned interest. Okay? Debit unearned interest income and credit interest income based on the amortization schedules. So let us have this example. On January 1, 2020, Wheels Company received a 3-year promissory note for 500,000 for the machines sold with a book value of 440,000. So we'll assume incidental activity. The note is non-interest bearing and the implied interest rate applicable for the same note in the market is at 12%. The note matured and paid at the end of 2022. So lump sum basis. Okay, the assumption is lump sum basis. The following are the present value factors or multipliers. We have 0.71 as present value of 1 and 2.40 present value of ordinary annuity. Now, the same with what we have yesterday, I have only given the figures for the present value factors. Now, in addition, as a bonus today, I will teach you how to compute the 0.71 and 2.40. So hopefully you have your calculators with you. And when it comes to calculators, I recommend basic or ordinary calculators only. I'm not advertising a brand. What I'm after is basic calculator or ordinary calculator. Regardless of the model, regardless of the brand, it's okay as long as it is an ordinary calculator. Okay? So, sige. Kindly follow me lang ha. Kindly follow. Okay. So to compute with 0.71, we have it here, the market rate of 12%. So input in your calculator, 1.12. Okay, input in your calculator, 1.12. Question, sir, why 1.12? 1 is constant while 0.12 depends on the market rate or the interest rate provided. So if it is 10%, we input 1.10 or 1.1. If it is 11%, we input 1.11. If it is 7%, 1.07, 8%, 1.08, and so on. Basta the thing is, it depends on the market or interest rate. Okay? After 1.12, kindly press divide sign. Yung divide, kindly press divide twice. Okay? Or 2 times. So divide. Okay? So 1.12, then press divide 2 times. So 1.12 divide. Then press equal sign, yung equal sign dyan sa calculators nyo. Press equal sign by the number of periods required. Now, be careful with the number of periods. In the problem, it is assumed to be annual because interest is to be received on an annual basis. What if the interest and the principal will be recorded or realized on a different manner? Okay? Like on a semi-annual, quarterly, or monthly. Okay? Now, if it is annual, one annual period will equivalent to 1 period only. Okay? Kaya nga, 1 annual, 1 period. As simple as that. Parang ganon. But if it is semi-annual, one annual period is equivalent to 2 semi-annual periods. So, if we're going to assume that the 3-year is on an annual basis talaga yung pag-realize ng interest and the principal. Okay? For example, interest na lang muna because this is on a lump sum basis. Okay? Therefore, 3-year could equal 3 periods only. But if the problem provides that the interest will be paid or will be realized every 6 months, every 6 months or on a semi-annual basis, then 3 years is equivalent to 6 periods. 6 semi-annual periods. If it is quarterly, then 3 years is 12 quarterly periods. 12 periods, 12 quarterly periods. Kung monthly, nako, 36 monthly period. So matatagalan kayo guys sa monthly sa pindot ng ICOS. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Tapos madadapa ka guys. But, ang ilan na yun? Diba? So asan gusto nyo? Annual, semi-annual, quarterly, o monthly?
Annual.
Annual talaga. Annual na lang. Sagot agad sila ng annual kasi nasa isip nila, baka magpa-exam si sir tapos yung ibigay monthly. Naku, lagot tayo niyan. Okay. Kayo talagang bibilis ng isip niyo. Okay. Now, why did I emphasize such? Because in corresponding with the number of periods, interest that the interest rate will also differ. Okay? Will also differ. For an annual period, 12% is 12%. But on a semi-annual period, on a semi-annual period, 12% will not be applied as 12%. 6% po guys yung gagamitin natin. Okay? Kung siguro, kung face-to-face to, baka ma-emphasize ko pa masyado sa mga samples. But nonetheless, ayan. Kung semi-annual yan, hindi 12% gagamitin. 6% lang. So meaning, kung quarterly, 3% yan. Kung monthly, edi 1%. Simple as that. Okay? Basta yun yung ano. You will appreciate it more when you proceed with financial management. Kasi nandun yun. Okay. So sige. Since 3 year, assume muna natin annual, so 3 periods. So 3 times. Press equal sign 3 times. Sige, ulitin natin. 1.12 divide, then press equal sign 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Sinong nakakuha ng 0.71, 1780 something? Kindly raise hand. Okay. So yan. Yan yung ating present value of 1. Yan na yan. We can round it off to 0.71, or if you want it for decimal, we can have it 0.7118. Or if 3 decimal, we have it 71.2. 0.712. Next. What about the ordinary annuity? What about the ordinary annuity? Paano isosolve si 2.40? Di ba nakuha si 0.71? 0.71, 1780 to blah 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 something. From 0.71, what we're going to do is minus 1. Okay, kindly follow. 0.71, 17 something, minus ka ng 1. Okay, minus 1. Then divide the resulting figure na negative 0.28 something, divide it with 0.12. Okay, divide it with 0.12. Ulit. 0.71, 17 something, minus 1, then divide 0.12. Sinong nakakuha ng 2.40, 18 something na negative? Okay. So yan. Yan ha. Kindly disregard negative. Will not use negative. So we're going to use as is 2.40. We can round it off 2.40. Or kung ano siya, for decimal 2.4018. Kung 3 decimal lang 2.402. Okay, but nonetheless 2.40 gagamitin natin. Another thing. Ano yung another thing na sinasasabihin ko sana? Ayun. Are you familiar with present value table? Parang iba ata yung term nun sa statistic. Meron ba kayong statistic na subject nung senior high school or ng high school? Sino yung may ano dito? May naka-encounter ng statistic?
Z-table, sir?
Parang ganon, Z-table. Yun. Z-table ata yun yung ano. Okay. If you will check the Z-table, makikita nyo yung ordinary annuity ng 12%. Nasa 2.40 yan. Marami kasi ang form ng Z-table. Nasa ordinary annuity, may annuity due at saka may present value of 1 for single period. If you want to check lang sa internet, yan. Kung, if you want to challenge, sabihin nyo sige nga kung tama yung sinabi ni Sir, tignan ko lang sa Z-table. Tignan ko lang. Okay? So yan, kindly check na lang. Nandun yan. The same goes with future value factors. Okay? May future value tables din. Pero hanapin nyo lang yung present value muna. Kasi yun yung ina-apply natin. The present value factor again will depend on the interest rate. It could either be 10%, 11, 12, so on and so forth. O sige. Solve. Necessary solution. For the present value of the notes receivable, the 500,000 will be multiplied with the present value of 1. That is the 0.71. The resulting present value is 355,000. Then 355,000 present value versus the face amount of 500,000. The difference is the unearned interest of 145,000. Then the loss on sale of the machine is the difference of the present value and the present value of the note and the book value of the machine. That should be 85,000. Then to analyze our amortization schedule, unearned interest will be posted here initially, then the carrying value as the present value. Now guys, analyze natin ng konti. Suppose that the present value is 355,000 and the difference of the present value and the face value is referred to as the unearned interest, which is the 145,000. If 145,000 is interest, then we can say that the present value is somewhat the principal amount. Is somewhat the principal amount. Later makikita nyo yan pag dumating tayo sa installment basis. Proceed mo lang muna tayo dito. Sige. So how do we compute the interest income? Do the same thing. Carrying value 355,000 times 12% may 42,600. 42,600. 42,600 minus dun sa 145,000, we can have the 102,400. Okay? Then the 355,000, add ka ng 42,600. We can arrive 397,600. Nahabol? Ellery Sand. Nahabol ako doon. Okay. Guys, we have other method to compute the 397,600 other than adding 42,600 to 355,000. Okay? How's that possible? Take note that the face value is 500,000. And because of the first amortization of 42,600, mababawasan yung unearned interest income to 102,400. So 500,000 minus 102,400, that would be 397,600. My dear, you have several ways to manipulate the figures in the amortization schedule. Maraming ways yan, guys. And every ways, we find ways. Ay, joke. Mali. Hindi. Every ways will result to the same figures. Okay? Then 397,600 multiply ka ulit ng 12%, lalabas ay 47,712. Then minus ka ulit doon sa 102,400, lalabas ang 54,688. Okay? You could either do it as 397,600 plus 47,712, lalabas si 445,312. Or kung gusto mo, you can have it 500,000 minus 54,688. Lalabas pa rin si 445,612. 312. 445,312. Now, to that point, I suggest ulit to stop the process since our goal is to realize or to settle the entire 500,000, okay, full amount of 500,000. So adjust na lang tayo on the last figures. Okay? So to zero out the unearned interest, the interest income should be equal to 54,688. So if we're going to compare 500,000 minus 445,312, that should be 54,688. Okay? Kasi if we're going to multiply 455,312 by 12%, how much would be the amount ng supposed interest income if we're going to follow the process? Okay. So yung lalabas is 53,437.4. So malaki ang difference niya sa 54,688. Okay? So yan. So in order for us to settle the entire figure of 500,000, dapat yung unearned interest masi-zero out by deducting 54,688 by itself. Okay? Proceed tayo sa journal entries. Debit notes receivable. Sa January 1, debit notes receivable 500,000. Debit loss on sale 85,000. Credit machine at book value 440,000. Should the accumulated depreciation is given, we're going to debit accumulated depreciation and credit machine at the cost or original cost. But since it is provided na book value na agad, yung 440,000, so credit na lang ulit, diretso sa machine. Then we credit interest income 145,000. Then to record the periodic amortization of unearned interest. Okay, unearned interest. Ano ba? Sorry. Yan. The same journal entries from 2020 to 2022, debit and earned interest income and credit interest income. For 2020, we have 42,600. Ito yan. 47,712 for 2021 and 54,688 for 2022. Ito sila yan. Then to record the final settlement of the note, debit cash and credit notes receivable for 500,000. That is at the end of 2022. Kasi nga lump sum basis. Next. On January 1, 2020, Wills Company received a 5-year, this time a 5-year promissory note for 500,000 for the machine sold with book value of 440,000. Still non-interest bearing, implied interest at 12%. The note is payable every year for 100,000. The first payment is on December 31, 2020. So what type of present value will be applied based on the given information. Guys, type of present value. Okay, clue. The note is payable every year for 100,000, meaning installment basis. So using installment basis by that clue. Tapos the first payment date is on December 31, 2020. So what type of present value is that? Will be applied. Guys, so tuklawin na kayo, nasa problem na. That is correct. Ordinary annuity. Okay? Ordinary annuity. So yan. Sige. Present value factors are 0.57 for PV of 1 and 3.60 for PV of ordinary annuity. Requirements, journal entries from 2020 to 2024. So again, how do we solve 0.57 and 3.60? Sige nga, kung na-apply yung tinuro ko kanina, input 1.12 divide 5 periods. 1 kindly raise hand kung sinong nakakuha ng 0.56 74 26 8 blah 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 something. Okay. So yan yung PV of 1. What about 3.60? Sige, proceed to 3.60. Paano masasolve si 3.60? Okay, sundan yung kanina. Okay. Sinong nakakuha ng 3.60, 47, 76 something? Disregard negative. Okay, paano ginawa yon? 0.56, 7 something, minus 1 divide 0.12. Okay? We have the same process with what we have in the previous problem. Although hindi natin ginamit si ordinary annuity. So what does it mean? Bakit after the specific PV of 1, nagma-minus tayo ng 1 then divide 0.12? Okay? Yung ano ko dyan, to better understand, I would say na the starting point of ordinary annuity is the PV of 1. Okay? Because performing minus 1 divide 0.12 is just an extension process to arrive ordinary annuity if we're going to continue PV of 1. Okay? So it's like we are hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. Okay? We're hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. Si present value of annuity due, iba naman. So later na yan, si present value of annuity due. So okay ha? I hope you're able to catch up kung paano nakuha yung 0.57 and 3.60. So we proceed with the necessary computations. Present value, we multiply the annual installment collections with the present value factor, which is the PV of ordinary annuity of 3.60. So that would be a 360,000 present value. For unearned interest, the difference of 500,000 and 360,000 is 140,000. The loss on sale is 80,000. Now, since we already have a column for installment payment and principal repayments, if we're going to analyze present value and unearned interest, we can say that unearned interest stands for the interest and the present value stand as if it's the principal amount. Always take note that the face value of 500,000 already includes principal and interest. And if we assume that unearned interest stands as the interest, then present value of the note of 360,000 is assumed as the principal. Okay? Assumed as the principal amount. Okay. Okay? So yan. So annual installment collections, meron tayo dito, 100,000. Then from 360,000, compute times 12%, we have 43,200. 43,200. Then 100,000 minus 43,200, we can come up with 56,800. Okay? 56,800. So how do we compute 303,200? Two ways ulit. Two ways. Pwede. First, 360,000 plus 43,200 minus annual installment of 100,000. Sige nga, compute nyo kung correct. Lalabas si 303,200. 360,000 plus 43,200 43,200 minus 100,000. O, sabi ni Sandra, 303,200 daw. Okay. So I hope yung iba nakuha yun. The other way is that 360,000 minus, magkano yung minus natin sa 360,000? Correct. 56,800. Very good. Now, baka meron lang kayong tawag nun, question. Sabi nyo, sir, yesterday, the column of principal payments or principal repayments, assuming yung equal payments na 180,000, sa yung topic natin sa installment basis with unrealistic interest na uniform ang payment or equal payments, yung 180,000 yun. Sir, nandun sa problem is principal repayments 180,000 parehas lahat. Bakit dito yung principal repayments nag-iiba-iba? Again, yung topic natin kahapon, interest bearing. Dito, non-interest bearing. So kung yung principal amount or yung face value is walang interest, then we can divide it by the number of periods. Magi-equal talaga yung principal payments. Pero kung yung principal ay yung ano natin, yung concept is nasa non-interest bearing, kung mapapansin nyo, oh, yan, nag-compute tayo ng present value. Argument again. Sir, bakit yung 360,000 hindi na lang natin i-divide by 5? Sige nga, 360,000 divide by 5. 72,000. Bakit sir hindi na lang gawin natin na 72,000 lahat dito para uniform? Para wala lang, trip lang natin. Para uniform sa interest bearing and non-interest bearing. Pwede kaya yon? Hindi. Hindi pwede. Reason, again, kasi nga non-interest bearing. For non-interest bearing, both both principal and interest is included already on the face amount. This 100,000 in the annual installment column is derived from the principal, is derived from the face value of 500,000. 500,000 is not principal alone. So meaning, each 100,000 represents both principal repayment and interest income. Okay? So if we're going to consider 43,200 as interest income, both interest income and amortization, we can say that out of 100,000, principal repayment is 56,800. Okay? 56,800. So if we do the same thing, 303,200 times 12%, 36,384. Yan pa lang yung interest income. Kung ibawas mo sa annual installment, yung principal repayment natin is 63,616. Then do the same process until we reach December 31 of 2023. 88,534. Okay? So for the last figures, we're going to adjust na lang. So sige. Please multiply 88,534 by 12% kung mag-equal siya sa 11,466 dito. Magkano kaya yan? Ayan. 10,624.08. But since we are to zero out the carrying value column, magkano yung supposed principal repayment natin? E di carry forward lang, 88,534. Since present na si principal repayment, magkano ngayon si interest income? So, this time, 100,000 minus 88,534, lalabas 11,466. Sige nga, kung correct tayo sa assumption natin na si 360,000 represents principal amount, kindly total si principal repayments kung magkano ang lalabas dyan. Okay? Kung magkano yung lalabas sa principal repayment na yan. Yung total. Bali, 56,800 plus 63,616 plus 71,250 plus 79,800 plus 88,534. 360. Okay? 360. Pero kung susundin natin yung interest income kanina, magkano yun? 10,624. Bale, yung magiging principal repayment natin sa 2024 is 89,376. So, 89,376 plus 79,800 plus 71,250 plus 63,616 plus 56,800. Guys, magiging 368,42. So magiging negative 68 magiging negative 842 yung carrying value. Hindi siya mazi-zero out. Okay? Hindi siya na zero out, nagkautang patuloy tayo. Yan. Okay na? So kindly raise hand kung nagets yun. Okay. Proceed tayo sa journal entries. To record the receipt of the notes sa January 1, debit notes receivable, 500,000. Loss on sale, 80,000. Machine credit for 40,000 and an earned interest income, 140,000. Then to record the receipt of installment payments and periodic installment amortization of unearned interest, debit cash and notes receivable, credit for 100,000. The same amounts on journal entries to 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024. Yung makakaiba lang is the amortization. Kasi sa 2020, we have 43,200. Sa 2021, 36,384. Yan, based dito. Then sa 2022, we have 28,750. 2023, 20,200. And 2024, 11,466. Sige nga, balikan natin yung problem. Kung talagang na-zero out na natin si unearned interest na 140,000. Kindly total the interest income amounts in the interest income column. Guys, I apologize for the dog. Kasi nga, beside our loan, parang palayan. And yung palayan na yan, may mga bunga na po yung mga yung palay, of course, kasi nga palayan. May bunga na at saka iniibon, may mga maya, so kailangan itaboy. So may tao, since alam nyo na yung aso, kapag merong ibang tao, ang OA ng aso, yung tahol ng tahol. Okay na yun guys, kaysa naman yung ako yung tumahol. Baka wala nang umattend sa class ko. Ako yung tumahol. So sige, magkano yun? Na-zero out ba? 140,000? O yun. Tama, meron. So yan. So yan ha, 140,000. So I hope na-appreciate nyo si amortization. Amortization schedule, we're going to reapply it when we proceed with investment. Meron din kasi doon. Okay, meron din kasi doon. Okay? So moving on. Last problem. Last problem, the same pa rin. Payable pa rin siya every ng 100,000 every year. Yun nga lang, first payment was made on January 1, 2020. Then after first payment or advance payment sa January 1, 2020, the subsequent installment will be paid thereafter sa December 31. Okay? Now, proceed tayo. Alam nyo na mag-compute ng 0.57. Dito naman tayo sa 4.40. Paano na-compute si 4.40? Okay? Diba sa ordinary annuity yung ginawa natin, we press equal sign with the number of periods. So kung 5 periods, 5 din yung pag-press natin. Pero si in advance of one or annuity due, it should be 5 periods minus 1. Hindi mo na lang diniretso sir na 4. Bakit tayo nagma-minus 1? Okay, bakit ko sinabing 5 minus 1? Okay? 5 minus 1 or simply 4 kasi nga meron tayong advance payment. Okay? Meron tayong advance payment. So, kung advance payment siya agad sa January 1, 2020, the same with our transaction date, meaning we cannot apply present value because walang period, substantial period of discounting. Kasi the same day eh. So therefore, the first installment, the advance installment is undiscounted. Or the present value is equivalent to the undiscounted value. Or the discounted value is equivalent already sa 100,000. The first 100,000. Yung ipe-present value na lang natin are, ha? Yung ipe-present value na lang natin are the succeeding installments. Therefore, the second, third, fourth, and fifth supposed installment. Okay? Kaya 4, second, third, fourth, fifth. So, paano natin i-compute? Almost same process. 1.12, sundan ako. 1.12, press divide 2 times, divide. Then press equal sign 4 times lang. 4 times. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. Dapat ang nakuha is 6.6355. Can you raise hand? Yan. Okay. 0.6355. From 0.6355 something, apply ka ulit. Minus 1, divide 0.12. Minus 1, divide 0.12. Minus 1, divide 0.12. Minus 1, divide 0.12. Kapoy. So, sinong nakakuha ng 3.0373? O, ayan. Nakakuha. Ngayon, magtataka kayo. Okay? May nakakuha na. Good for you. Ngayon, magtataka kayo, sir. Nasaan si 4.04? Kasi kung ira-round off natin yan, absolute value, positive lahat, disregard negative, magiging 3.04 lang yan. E nasan yung 4.04? Take note again that the first installment is consistent na undiscounted. Parang undiscounted. Okay? So therefore, consistent siya na 1. Kung consistent siya na 1, mag-plus 1 tayo sa 3.40373 something. Kaya na-compute si 4.04. Okay? Kaya na-compute si 4.04. Sige, para mas maintindihan nyo, proceed tayo sa solution. Okay? Proceed tayo sa solution. Pansinin nyo si amortization schedule. Yung first installment, di ba walang interest? Di ba? So therefore, the first 100,000 only relates to the principal repayments. Kasi walang interest na mako-compute. January 1 to January 1, oops. Okay? Not substantial ang period. So therefore, mahirap i-discount. So gagawin, buong 100,000 which is parang undiscounted siya. So consistent or constant siyang 1. Okay? Constant yung 1. So yung 3.037 something, mag-plus 1 lang tayo. Kasi yung 3.07, 3.03, 3.0373 something, yun yung total ng present value factors for the 4 installments only. Kung isasama natin yung 1 for the advance payment, magiging buong 5 installment and present value factor. That's the reason why nag-plus 1 tayo. Okay? I hope na gets yun. So present value of the notes, annual installments times 4.04, that would be 404,000. And earned interest, that should be 96,000. And loss on sale, that should be 36,000. Then proceed lang, annual installment, ilagay dito. Carrying value, 404,000. Okay, guys. Yung problem nag-provides na good for 5 years yung life ng promissory note. Initially, yung perspective natin, we're going to pay 5 times. But if we're going to analyze the amortization schedule, makikita nyo, kung ordinary annuity yan, yung last row would be information for 2024. Pero yung nakalagay dyan, information 2023. Kasi nga, nag-advance payment tayo, mauusog yung payment. Parang ma-early. Instead of going way to 2024, magiging 2023 lang. The same pa rin naman, 5 payments. Nagkaroon nga lang ng advance payment. Okay? Nagigets ako kay Liray Sand. Okay. For a while guys for a while. Okay, so going back, we analyze the amortization schedule. So first installment, advance installment. So full 100,000 is applied to the principal repayments only. So 404,000 minus 100,000, that should be 304,000. So yung 304,000, doon na tayo mag-start ng pag-compute ng interest. Okay? So 304,000 times 12%. That should be 36,480. From 36,480, i-minus mo siya sa 100,000, makaka-arrive tayo ng 63,520. Okay? The same concept. It's up to you kung saan susundin nyo. You could either use 304,000 minus 63,520. 304 pala. 304,000 minus 63,520. We can arrive to 40,480. Or you can have it 304,000 plus 36,480 minus 100,000. Ganun pa rin yun. Then do the same thing until 2022 na information. Yung 89,659. Sige nga, try natin i-multiply si 89,659 by 12%. Magkanong lalabas na supposed interest? Okay, correct. 10,759.08. But because we need to zero out the carrying value, dapat yung magiging principal repayment natin the same na 89,659. So magkano yung supposed interest income natin or amortization? That should be the difference of the 100,000 and 89,659. So 10,341. Okay? So journal entries. To record the receipt of the note, we debit notes receivable 500,000, loss on sale of machine 36,000, machine credit for 40,000, and unearned interest income 96,000. In addition to this entry, we have the receipt of the first installment payment by customers. So debit cash and credit notes receivable. Ay, hindi pala ng customer, ng party paying or payor. Basta yung first collection natin. Debit ng cash and credit notes receivable for 100,000. Then for 2020, December 31, okay, until December 31, 2023, we debit cash and credit notes receivable for 100,000. Consistent yan. Ayan. Then yung interest income, debit and earned interest income and credit interest income on the basis of the amortization schedule. Okay. So for 2020, you have 36,480. 2021, we have 28,858. Ayan yan. Then for 2022, we have 20,321. And 2023, 10,341. Heto yan. Now, balikan natin yung problem. Sige nga, kung correct yung ating analysis ulit, na present value is assumed principal, kindly total yung principal repayments kung total ng 404 yan. Okay, compute. 100,000, 63,520 plus 71,142 plus 79,679 plus 89,659. Bam! Okay. Correct. Very good. So, saradong 404,000. Kasi kung gagamitin natin yung supposed interest kanina na, magkano yun? 89,659 times 0.12. 89,659 times 0.12. Yung 10,759, Yung magiging principal repayment natin will be 89,241. So kung 89,241 plus 79,679 plus 71,142 plus 63,520 plus 100,000. Guys, kulang tayo ng 418. Okay, magkukulang ng 418. Magsusobra naman yung interest natin. Then yung unearned interest natin, kindly total yung interest income kung magkano yung magiging totals niyan. So 36,480 plus 28,858 plus 20,321 and 10,341. Okay. Yan, 96,000. Ano ba naman to? Yung background ko parang parang may liwanag dun sa upper right ba yan or upper left? Ang kinukuha na ako. Joke lang. Hindi, wag pa. Hindi ko pa na-fulfill mission ko sa buhay. Yay. Safe naman, bagay doon. Joke. Hindi natin alam. Okay, so 96,000. So, everything else are balanced out. Ayan. So that concludes our discussion for notes receivable and for non-interest bearing notes receivable.